Item 10B, we can ask our council members to come back in. Item 10B is to receive a report on the police consolidation study.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. In March of 2010, the City Councils of San Bruno and Millbrae authorized the sharing of police chief services and approved a study to evaluate the feasibility of consolidating the two police departments. A contract was approved also authorizing the Municipal Resources Group, or MRG, to determine any service benefits and cost savings opportunities by sharing police services. Representatives from MRG examined calls for service, crime statistics, staffing levels, and budgeted costs for the cities of Millbrae and San Bruno. After supplying an initial draft and receiving comments from city staff, MRG provided a completed study that provided alternatives for full and partial police consolidation. The first MRG study analysis provided two consolidation options and several alternatives for partial consolidation. The first consolidation option, referred to as the existing service model, identified a cost savings but failed to provide an adequate staffing level that would serve both communities, and it would have been less than what is provided currently today. The second option, referred to as the existing budget model, provided adequate personnel, however very little cost savings. Staff worked with MRG consultants to provide an additional option for consolidation that was listed as the preferred service model. This model would provide adequate coverage for police services while recognizing some cost savings. MRG completed the final study that was presented to the City Council subcommittees separately and at a joint meeting held later. The presentation focused on the preferred service model, and the study identified an estimated savings of about $483,000 in consolidation, and that's for a combined total for both cities. Current budget reductions in the city of Millbrae reduced that amount to approximately $300,000, and startup costs for police consolidation were estimated at about $480,000, and this would essentially result in a net increase in expenditure of $180,000 for the first year. The reduction of police personnel over the past 10 years in both San Bruno and Millbrae has been significant, and that essentially reduced the amount of savings that we experienced with this study. I think that if that study was done 10 years ago, you would have seen a significant savings. Equally important when this study first started is it wasn't all about cost savings. It was about, can we enhance police services in both communities? And I think that I know that that's what staff looked at, and I know that that message came through in the subcommittee meetings. Because that the preferred service model offered a service level close to what is offered today, and it has one less sworn officer in it than what both agencies currently do today. And it offered very minimal savings. The subcommittee didn't recommend further study. The City of Millbrae has already taken action on this item and has taken this to their City Council because of a prompt plan for future policing needs that they require in their city. The two cities will continue to share police chief services for an estimated 30 to 60 days while Millbrae reviews those alternatives. I know that this has been a collaborative effort with Millbrae from the very start. And similar to fire, we do share a great partnership, and it's unfortunate that this study didn't prove to further show an advantage to consolidation. However, that doesn't take away that we have a very good working relationship with the City of Millbrae. That concludes my comments, and I know that Mayor Lane and Councilmember Medina worked very hard on the subcommittee, and they may have some more comments for you.
Any questions of the chief? Irene?
Thank you. So after the 30 or 60 days of sharing, you essentially quit with Millbrae?
I will return to resume full-time police chief duties at San Bruno.
Okay. So what will that do to our budget since we share you half-time? I know it says there's $42,000 savings this fiscal year, but next fiscal year we won't be doing that.
For our current fiscal year, when we were planning budgets for this year, we did not budget half-time police chief expenditures. We budgeted for full-time police chief expenditures. So we are actually going to recognize about $42,000 estimated in increase in revenue. But for next year, our budget will remain, or we anticipate it will remain the same.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Any questions?
Through the chair.
Michael?
I'm curious about the numbers in the preferred service model that are outlined here, and it shows, it says at least for the current budget year, it was reduced down to 300,000. But had Millbrae, if say next year they were to increase their staffing levels to where they were previously, then that savings would have gone back to the 483.
Correct.
Okay, and you're talking about a one-time one-time cost of 480,000 in the first year.
It was estimated at 480,000, yes.
And so I'm thinking that if you look at this over a period of maybe 3 to 5 years, after the first year, you would recognize a fairly significant savings. I mean, only if you're looking at it at 1 year, it might be a pretty small savings, but over time, once you get past that initial startup cost, it does seem, I mean, at least just looking at these numbers, and I didn't have a chance to look at the whole study, but at least looking at these numbers, it would appear to me that the savings would be more significant.
Yes, and I think part of that depends on if Millbrae was able to increase the police department budget to what it was the previous year when the study actually took place and when MRG consultants took those numbers for their report. And again, if they did not, it would be about 300,000 to be split between the two cities. And again, that's an estimate.
Okay.
Here we go.
Very quick, some good questions. I think the mayor can speak for himself, of course. You're welcome. But there were a couple things. Economics is one thing that we certainly looked at and the study looked at, but it was also service level that we thought was most critical as well. What's going to be provided to the residents of San Bruno? What do we have currently, and do we actually gain? Or are we staying at status quo and sharing a chief? And so all of those aspects, not only cost, but definitely the service level and what's provided to our community and the focus that's given to our community is what had the subcommittees believe that at this time the savings wasn't great enough and the service level wasn't increased at all for the city of San Bruno, that was worth venturing past that subcommittee level. And I think, as the chief indicated, because we and the city of Millbrae have already reduced staffing levels to such a degree, the initial cost hoped savings dissipated, and they've even made additional ones. So that's kind of, we weighed both service level in addition to the costs. Yeah.
Right, and you know, there's no doubt that maybe strain might be a little strong of a word, but it's been a lot of effort, especially on the part of the chief, to make this happen over this last period of time when he's served both cities. And so it's not just a monetary savings. I think you know, it's important that we realize troops on the street is what we were really after. And after we looked at it closely, it didn't really look like, you know, going forward, it was really going to happen, and that was the basis for our recommendation. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chief.